Here we go. So I am still reading our meeting statement. So this is to all attendees. Please be aware that this live council meeting is being recorded. Your personal information, including your image, voice, name, opinions, any other personal information disclosed by you during the meeting is collected by the City of Roslyn under the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act for the purpose of your participation in public input. If you have any questions about the collection of your personal information, please contact dco@roslyn.ca. That's Cynthia. If you do not wish your personal information to be collected, please do not join the live council meeting. In order to run the public input smoothly, if you wish to comment on an agenda item, please use the raise your hand button, and I will call on those who wish to speak by name. When your name is called, please unmute your microphone, state your name and comments. And this is for the public hearing, and we are going to start this right up. Hold on one second. Okay, so the purpose of the public hearing is considering the following 4 items, and I'm going to take them in order. So if you wish to speak on an item, please raise your hand when we call. I'm not going to read them all out now and then go back. We're going to do them one at a time. So you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. So the first thing is we can have our DCO read how they've been advertised, if she can speak.
The notices of the public hearing were published in the December 3rd and December 10th editions of the Roslyn News and distributed in accordance to the Local Government Act. The city received 6 written submissions regarding zoning amendment bylaw number 2734.
Okay, great. So the first one we're going to talk about, and there are 4, so listen carefully for the one that you want to speak to, attendees. The zoning amendment is for St. Paul Street. This is 2075 St. Paul Street. This is a bylaw to rezone the lands located at 2075 St. Paul Street from R1 infill, residential infill, to residential multifamily. We've received a number of correspondence on this, and the staff recommendation is that we turn this back to staff for further work. But we do want to hear, anyone wants to tell us something new that they didn't write in their letter or just speak further to their letter, they are welcome to raise their little hand and I will see if I can catch you. Okay, so Sean O'Farrell has raised his hand. Sean.
Mute. Hello?
Hello, welcome.
Hi, well, thanks for doing this. I feel like I've really joined the 21st century here. Yeah, I live I live at 2145 First Avenue. I don't have an issue with rezoning to have more infill housing. With the development as it stands, I think that there's going to be there already are issues with parking. I don't think that allowing one or allowing for 1 car per unit is enough. It tends to be people that work at the ski hill or whatever, and they tend to pack people into these apartments. And I can say from experience, I've lived in this house for the past 7 years, and parking in the winter is always more onerous, obviously, because of snow removal. But I think adding another 4 units on top of what is already there will make it a real nightmare in this area. I would like to see I think that there's going to be too many buildings on that site, and I think that they should I understand that they're trying to provide housing and everything like that, but I think that once the new development is built, I think that the old building should be knocked down, and that's where the parking should take place. I think that would be a much easier route to get to. That's basically all I have to say.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Kerry Lee, you are up next. And welcome.
Hi, it's actually Matt here.
Matt, you're welcome too. Good to hear you.
Thank you. I'm addressing just a couple of other things along with Sean's opinions there in regard to the parking, that is a nightmare. Just this morning alone, with the apartment building across the road, directly across the road from the proposed development, there's 7 parked cars on First Avenue for that structure just alone. Today, I noticed there's 2 vehicles up on First Ave for the existing 2 buildings, plus another vehicle in the yard along with 2 trailers and what appears to be a mobile crane. You know, parking in this area is tight in the winter time. That's a big concern for me. The design of the building, just the way they've got it designed. I know that this is just a proposal for this at this stage, but the roof slopes that they have on their proposed drawing slope to First Avenue and to St. Paul, which I believe would create issues regarding water and snow unloading onto those areas. Just again, the parcel size, I know I messed up. I used an old zoning bylaw when I did my numbers on my letter, but in refreshing and looking at the numbers, again, with a new zone, it's 950 square meters required to do an R3 development. And just with the old building and the new proposed building, I'm wondering how that can be under the 60% maximum surface coverage. You know, like Sean said, I think if they thought about removing the old building, they'd give themselves more options for placing the building more appropriately and be able to consider off-street parking access to the property. And then again, there's like issues such as the height and looking upon the neighboring homes in the area. I think that should be considered also. And just in reading the city's like write-up that they had for the application, I don't think you can take or you can make an assumption that people living in the downtown core will not have vehicles. You know, I think everyone today has at least 1 vehicle in their home. So you'd have to at least think of at least 6 vehicles in that building at the very least. Yeah, and just looking at, you know, I have nothing against housing or affordable housing within Roslyn. I think we need it. I think it's, you know, it's a good idea to have affordable housing downtown for both seniors and people who can't afford to purchase a house in this town. Yeah, Roslyn is getting more expensive, and I think we need to densify a bit, but we just have to think more sensibly and look at the projects. So that's my concerns.
Okay, thanks, Matt. All
Thank
right,
you.
Jordon, you have your hand up.
I think you're back to area.
Jordon, you can speak if you want to.
Sorry, I was trying to manage my mute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks. So our family property is 2180 First Ave, which is the property directly across the street on First Ave with the proposed development. Definitely supporting everything that Matt has said, as well as the other neighbor. And I also did write a letter at length expressing my concerns. I agree that, you know, there is a need for housing in Rossland. I just strongly believe that the proposed development is quite disruptive based on the design, especially going for a rezoning, and also the application is, it also mentions that there will likely be a variance request to move the property as close to First Avenue as possible. And also the R3 rezoning would permit higher building height, and that would, I mean, that directly impacts our view, our sunlight as a south-facing home in that area. Snow removal is a huge issue, and that intersection between First and St. Paul, not only from a parking perspective, is it's a bit of a bottleneck and it can be blind. I've driven up that road many times and there's been issues with the stop sign there. And if we have another building moved close to First Ave, it will cut that corner off to be able to, you know, safely look down St. Paul towards Rossland for people crossing that intersection, which I think is a safety hazard. on top of everything else. But yeah, my letter and also what everyone else has mentioned does also highlight most of my concerns. So I just wanted to add that extra layer of safety in the area. With that being, you know, St. Paul being a pass through and First Ave being a stop sign there, not being able to effectively see with a building closely butted up to First Ave would make for a safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Rachel, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Rachel here, 2063 St. Paul. So just the house right below the proposed development. We also sent in a letter. Sorry for sending you the draft accidentally. That's what sometimes Word does. So the correct version is the one without typos labeled final. But I think, you know, redundant to everybody else, I just wanted to say hi, meet my neighbors over Zoom, and say, you know, I think we're the most potentially impacted by the change in building height in the proposed zoning change. A higher building definitely means that there'll just be a taller building looming over our property. And 4 units is a big change to a single house directed right at our property. So that building height change, you know, it's, you know, same thing. We're like pro built housing in this community, but a taller unit that looks right onto our property with 4 units definitely infringes on our privacy, and also the potentially the noise that's directed at our property. And should these ever be short-term rentals or anything like that, it's just gets a little bit hectic. And to reiterate what everybody says about St. Paul just being so dangerous, it's insane watching the traffic comes down St. Paul in the wintertime. And there's a crosswalk right there, and then the sidewalk ends on St. Paul and First, and it doesn't continue in any other direction. And it's really confusing for pedestrians. I'm a dog walker. It's always weird to know where you're actually even supposed to cross that intersection. So further congestion there just leads to the danger. We think there should actually be a sign at First and St. Paul asking drivers to consider an alternate route if there's ever snow, because for whatever reason, people don't consider an alternate route and they spin in circles down St. Paul every time there's a snowfall. So thank you for your time, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to speak to us about St. Paul? I'm going to move on to the next one if I don't see any happy little blue hands going up, which I don't. So the next one we have is the Light Industrial Commercial Use Bylaw 2739. The intent of this bylaw amendment is to allow all the uses listed under service commercial to be permitted in light industrial. Is there anyone who wants to speak to this one? I'm scanning the attendees. I see no one. Okay. All right. Now, the next thing we have, you probably don't want to talk about this one either, but it is our 2020-2024 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw 2742, and that this is to amend our Schedule A with expenditures that are already legally approved by council. So does anybody want to speak to that? That's kind of a house cleaning thing for us we do every year around this time. Okay, moving on, we've got our Business License Amendment Bylaw. And this is the proposed bylaw is to include changes to the short-term rentals to include the following: not to refund the 3% tourism rosin fees collected in 2020 and to remove the $400 deposit. Is there anybody who wants to speak to that? Look at that. None of you want to speak to that. Okay. So I think we're going to adjourn this public hearing. Now we're going to start our regular meeting right away. Oh, wait, Nicole, did you want to speak? Talking's permitted, Nicole, if you want to say something.
I do. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Are you talking on the on the public hearing?
Yes. I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions regarding the Reds request.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Hold on. Hold on.
Okay.
We got to do a little more rigmarole before we're going to.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to close the public hearing and then we're going to open our regular meeting. Anyone who wants to stay for the regular does not have to leave this Zoom call. But I need to get my other paper.
Hey,
Charminaker,
sorry, Charminaker raised their hand. I don't know if that's public
What's that?
hearing or
What?
there's somebody up top. Charmin. maker?
Yeah, Sharman's going to wait for the regular meeting, I think.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not going to read our meeting statement again because I think everybody here was here when I read it the first time or the second time for the day. But I'm going to call this meeting to order. And before we get going, I do have to do this. I have to acknowledge that this is Darren Albo's final council meeting. Darren has been with the city, there he is, smiling face, for 34 years with the city of Roslyn. He's our public works manager and he is about to officially retire. I believe it is this Friday, the 17th, is it not, Darren? It's, yep, that's his last day. And I just want to say his contributions over the last 3 decades, 3 decades, think about it, of service has been immeasurable. Of course, he learned the job from his dad, so you got to say it's in his DNA. And I'm very glad we had a few months to have a little overlap with the Prince of Darkness there, Scott Lamont, because that gave them an opportunity to mind meld a little bit and get some of that information out of Darren's head into Scott's head. And he's just got a vast knowledge about everything that has to do with the city. Not just public works, but honestly, the community, the city, the people who live here, the people who don't live here anymore, the people who were born here and died here and all the rest of it. And I also want to say, and this is really important, and no offense to everybody in the conference room there, but I have to say, I think Darren's job is about the toughest in any municipality. It requires expertise in many, many areas of public service provision. So it's, you got to be a creative problem solver. You've got to have public relations and diplomatic skills, right, Darren? And you also have to manage a crew of very hardworking and sometimes rough around the edges public works guys and gals. And you have to meet the needs of all, how can I diplomatically say this, a rather demanding public, not to mention a pesky couple of mayors here and there, few city councilors and councils. And honestly, Darren has seen it all. Over 34 years, he's done his best to juggle all of these challenges and use all of his, skills and talents. And he has done an outstanding job. So Darren, as Jana said, I am very sorry we are not having this meeting in person. You deserve a big send-off for sure, and it's hard to convey the depth of our gratitude and our appreciation over a Zoom call. There's just no way, right? It's just not the same. But this is where we are at the moment. We can't change that. We will make it up to you at some point in the future. Hopefully it's the near future. We thank you. We will miss you. And we know how to reach you and we know you aren't going far. So anyway, I just wanted to say that before we got started, and thank you so much. And from all of council, and I'm sure the city has their own thanks for you too, but from all of us at the council, we're just really happy. So.
Well, thank you very much for that. It's been a lot of fun over the last 33 years. And as you just said, I've had the conversation with Scott. I ain't going anywhere. And, if he needs me at any time, I'm going to answer the phone. So anyway, thank you very much, you guys. And yeah, it's been awesome.
Hey, and I'm sorry, I exaggerated. 34, I said 34, you say 33. So either way, it's a huge number of years and we appreciate it. Okay, so now back to business. And Darren, if you don't want to stay for the meeting, you don't have to. But we'd love to have you if you want to stay. Okay, so now we're going to move to the public input period of our meeting. And this is to all the attendees. You are welcome to speak to us about any matter. You're going to have 2 minutes to talk. We request that you be respectful of the time and of all of us, please. And also, if there is anyone here who is here for something specific on the agenda, I'd like to know about it. Because I'm going to make some adjustments to the agenda. I'll move things forward. Right now, if people are going to stay and listen to the discussion, I'm going to move the discussion of St. Paul Street, the Valhalla variance, the McLeod land swap, the Museum Association insurance, and the red fireworks. I'm going to move all those things forward on the agenda. If anybody as an attendee wishes something else to come up a little sooner in the agenda, because a lot of these things are, it's kind of a big package tonight, put it in the chat and I'll do my best to, let's see if there's anything there. I'll do my best to move it. Okay. You know, and I do appreciate that not everyone is fascinated with, you know, government as we are. So I understand that. Okay, so first up is public input, and I see that Sharman has his hand up. So Sharman, you may speak to us.
Hello, can you?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Excellent. Well, thanks for allowing me to speak. I'm hoping you already have received my letter on this topic.
Yes.
And I won't go over that in more detail. Clearly, there's a kind of a subjective aspect since this land swap will affect my, you know, right up against my property. Yeah? And I won't bore you with my subjective impressions, but maybe to stick to the objective issues around this. And one would be the issue of this being a very tight cul-de-sac. And if you have a trail there, then even if one vehicle is parked there, you're going to have a traffic problem, either safety or congestion. Just at the moment, city vehicles, snow plowing, recycling, garbage, all of those, they have to make part of a turn, back up, go forward again to get around it. And if there's even one vehicle parked in this area, it's going to be that much more difficult, and that leaves even winter out. So I think that the issue of the parking makes any use of this piece of land for a trail not a very good idea. So just to stay on that issue of the parking, since I think is one that has got importance for the Iron Code subdivision and for the other options for the westernmost entry point into the new trail. The new trail, by the way, looks like it could be a really big asset. I've walked the tagline a few times, and I think it could wind up being a pretty nice trail. I guess we need to figure out how people can safely access it. And I know there's two different options for the westernmost access. I know my neighbors in the Ironcourt Avenue may have some opinions they'll want to speak to you about regarding privacy issues of the trail passing a house. I'll leave that one alone. There is a little bit more parking up at the Ironcourt Avenue cul-de-sac, maybe about 5 or 6 parking spots. But if you think about the southernmost entry point into the Ironcourt Trail being right there, that could become a problem, the parking, as well as the fact that there is a multifamily development just immediately adjacent to the Ironcourt southernmost trail entry. And the 16 apartments in that complex will have on-site residential parking. I would suggest that the city require on-site visitors parking, just like they have at Esling Park Lodge, to keep the traffic and you know, the actual roadway free of congestion. Even better would be if that could be also angled parking, so that you could get more cars parked in on the street itself. I don't know about the geometry of how that could work. Otherwise, with increased use of that trail, both the new one and the Ironcourt existing trail, over time, as population goes up and visitors come more, I think we're going to have a problem there. So some advanced planning around that would be most useful. Otherwise, it may be necessary to figure out a way for people to access these trails through the Centennial parking lot, which is a bit of a distance away, but it actually has better contours if you think of this as being an entry-level trail. It's a little bit more flat. I think that's all I've got to say on the parking issue, and I leave to City Council as to whether the land swap is good value for money. You're giving away land without getting any money back, and you're getting in exchange a right of way. As a citizen that uses our trails extensively, I'd be happy to use the trail, but would like to ensure that there's some fairness to the other residents of the town and to the Ironcourt subdivision. I think I've used up my 2 minutes, so thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Sharman. Does anyone have any questions for Sharman about the land swap? He is part of the deal there. I think not at this time. Okay, now I think Nicole wanted to speak about, did you want to speak or did you just want to listen? Oh, there you are. Okay, all right. Yes, Nicole.
Unmute. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I just wanted to make myself available for if anybody had any questions regarding RED's request for city's financial contributions to the fireworks.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about that? I think that was a pretty straightforward request.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks. Are you going to stay and listen to the conversation, Nicole?
No, I'm actually going to head out if no one has any questions.
Okay, well then that's fine. Then I am not going to move it forward on the agenda. Thanks.
Nicole, hi, sorry, it's Terry. Can you remind me what time the fireworks are scheduled to go?
9 p.m.
I don't want to miss it. Thank you.
Yes,
That's
no
great.
problem.
Okay,
Good.
and okay, thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Okay, bye-bye. Mark, I think you wanted to speak on the Valhalla Eves. Mark, I still see him muted.
How about now? How are we doing now?
That sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. I'm
Yep.
glad I sound good. I had this huge, well, not huge. I had some things kind of made up, pictures, slides, sort of deal, because I was told to have a whole bunch of things ready so I could show it to you, but it seems like that's kind of not going to happen. So I guess it's just going to be my voice you're going to hear.
Well, actually, we see pictures. We've seen pictures in the.
Oh,
in the
you have?
report.
Oh,
yeah,
perfect.
Don't
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. So I guess I just mainly wanted to talk to it in regards of, I guess everybody's read through it, which is great. It's kind of a slice of an eve that's teetered into, requiring a variance, which was accidental. There'd be no reason for us to even want to. I don't know why anybody would want to request a variance, but so this is not something that we've ever planned for, sort of deal. And it seems from emailing around to our neighbors, they seem to be supportive in it from what I have seen, unless somebody hasn't brought it to my attention. So I guess I'm just hoping for, council to kind of, vote with us on this so we don't have to rip apart the eaves and redo our shingling. Yeah, I feel it's very snowball in nature, and I don't know. I guess, yeah, it's kind of tough to speak to it when I had pictures and slides and good stuff. But
Okay, that's okay.
yeah,
I think we've seen it. Let me just ask council if anyone has any questions, because we have read the report and we have seen the pictures.
We had pictures.
Yes, pictures, always pictures. Anybody have anything they want to ask Mark? He is the owner? I think not. Okay, thank you, Mark.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Are you, and you're going to stay for the discussion? I think so, maybe. Okay. Okay, is there anyone else who wants to speak to us in public input? Raise your little blue hand. And Mark was muted, but I think he's going to stay. I think so. Okay, I'm not seeing any other blue hands. So now I'm going to go to the point where the point of the agenda where I move things forward. The things I'm going to move, we're going to adopt the agenda, and we're going to move St. Paul under 7. It'll be 7A. If there's no one here for the 3rd Street thing, I'm not going to move it. We're going to move the Valhalla Eves. We're going to move the McLeod Land Swap. We're going to move the Museum Association. And that's it. We're going to move those things. So if there's anybody else in the audience that wants me to move something else forward, now's the time, or I'm going to take a motion to adopt the agenda from somebody. Raise your hand. Okay, Chris and Dirk, and as amended, all in favor of the agenda. Okay, good. Okay, now we have no registered petitions and delegations tonight, so we're going to do some minute adoption. So minutes of the public hearing on November 16th. Can I have a mover and a seconder? That's Andy and a seconder. Janice, all in favor of those minutes? Okay, and then we've got minutes of the regular meeting on the 16th that we adopt them. Mover, Dirk, Janice, any comments? All in favor? Raise your hands. Good. Okay, minutes of the special meeting on November 23rd be adopted. Can we get a mover Andy moves it, and Stu seconds it. All in favor? Okay. And we've got minutes of the Heritage Commission. Do we have a mover? Oh, this is on November 23rd. Mover, Chris. Seconder? Seconder, Janice. Okay. I just want to comment on this. Anyone else can as well, but I think there seems to be a lot happening. It's a very dynamic group, and I want to welcome Ariel Belsham, the newest member. So I think that's great. They've got some new people joining in. All in favor? Okay. Minutes of the Sustainability Commission. Get a mover for that. Somebody raise your hand. Okay, Dirk and Chris. Any comments? Welcome to Sarah Hare, the new chair, and many thanks to Alex Loeb, the retiring chair. She did a great job in the role, keeping the SC on track. So that's good. Okay, so now we are going to our slightly garbled thing. We're going to start with the St. Paul discussion. So that's on page 45 of your agenda package. And the recommendation from staff is that council refers this zoning amendment back to staff to address concerns raised at the public hearing and allow further time for council consideration. Janice makes the motion. Andy seconds it. Any discussion? Janice? You're muted.
So sorry, I agree with that entirely, yes.
Okay. Andy, anything?
Yeah, same. Agree entirely with it. I'm going back to staff.
I think we've heard a lot of good on that. Anybody want to comment? I'll call the question. All in favor? Back to staff. Away it goes. Okay, the next thing up is another one we moved, and it is development variance permit for Valhalla Terrace. Staff recommendation is that we approve this development variance permit on Valhalla Terrace with the following variance, and that is a 1.05 meter variance to the setback. A mover? Andy and Stuart. Andy? You're muted.
No issues. All good.
Stuart?
Seems sensible.
Any comments, anybody? All in favor? Okay, good work. All right, now we're on the McLeod land swap, and the staff recommendation is that we approve the land swap for the laneway next to McLeod, 6 meters for the development of a public trail that goes around Kootenai Columbia Mountain with the following conditions: that a covenant is registered on title for a portion of land preventing the construction of a structured driveway or road, and that if both parties are agreeable, then a portion of land may be divided between the neighbors, with the owner of 2642 assuming responsibility for additional surveying and registration costs. Do I have a mover? We can get this on the floor and talk about it. Dirk moves it. Stuart seconds it. Dirk, your comments?
I have no issues with it. I think it seems reasonable.
Okay, Stuart?
Yeah, it's seems gonna be a great trial. This is a good solution for making it happen.
Okay, other comments? Janice?
Yeah, for the covenant and the, we've got these neighbors are requesting the covenant, as well as it'll have to be resurveyed if they want to split it up bunks. I'd like to see them, since it's to their benefit and they're requesting it, I'd like to see them pay for that as well.
Okay, pay for the covenant. Now let's ask staff, because I think that question was put out to the owners. Was it, Stacy?
It was, but I didn't hear back from Charmin. So Charmin, if you're still listening, which it looks like you are. So council had asked for you, I had suggested that you would pay for the covenant, for the surveying and registration, and council's asking about the covenant also. So maybe you can speak to that.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Thank
okay,
you.
good. Yeah, my understanding when I spoke to Stacy, that this seemed like a good idea anyway, and that this would be something that would go with the swap. So the idea of paying for it didn't arise. So I'm not sure if that's something that that you feel that we have to do or not. Certainly, if we chose to split the land, I can see how that will be an additional surveying and legal costs, and I would be willing to assume my portion of that. But I was unaware that the covenant was an optional item. I thought this would be in everyone's best interest. You know, we did buy this property with the idea that that was going to be green space, and council is now changing this on us. So I'm not sure why it becomes my responsibility to pay for it. This is I'm hoping it stays the way it was supposed to be, which is just undeveloped land.
Okay, thank you, Sharman. Okay, so the motion on the floor is that we do pay for the covenant, but those costs are covered by the city. If we want to change that and request the property owner to do it, then we need to make an amendment. Stuart?
Can I just ask Stacey what the process and potential costs of including covenant status within whatever happens might be?
About $1,000 extra. And I know I had recommended that the city pay for it, as it was a change to what the owner had initially bought. He had bought a place next to a green space, and now the city is changing that. So that's why I had recommended the city pay for it.
Okay. Okay, Dirk?
Yeah, I'm comfortable leaving that $1,000 on the city. It is a swap, so it does seem like shared responsibility.
Okay. All right. Any other comments about this, or I will call the question. Does anyone have anything else they want to say? Okay. All in favor of the motion as presented? And okay, that passes. All right. The next thing is the Roslyn Historical Museum Association Capital Update, Use and Disbursement of Insurance Proceeds. Now, we had decided we were going to make this into two motions. The first one is that council approves the disbursement of $58,485 received for museum artifacts that were destroyed in the tour guide building collapse to be paid to the Roslyn Historical Museum Society. Or the museum, I guess. I don't even know if it is to the society. Anyway, whomever it is owed. Do I have a mover? Janice moves. Chris seconds. Okay, Janice, any comments? You're muted.
Shoot, darn it. I wanted to say something else. No, I'm sure that they will use it to either replace or repair and display other artifacts. So, you know, as we've discussed earlier this evening, the museum's doing some amazing stuff. Anything that helps them continue to do that is good.
Okay. And let's see, who was our seconder? Was that Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And completely agree with what Janet just said too. As we struggle through insurance again, I like to see this money going to the museum.
Okay, does anyone else have any comments on this? It's pretty straightforward. They own the artifacts. We insured them. We've got the payment. We pay them. How about it? All in favor? Okay. Okay, now the next motion, a little more complicated, and that is the council directs staff to consult with the museum personnel and tech about potential budget and structural repairs to existing structures on site, as well as prevent potential demolition and or artifact relocation. Do I have a mover for this? Andy moves, the seconder. Janice seconds. Okay, Andy?
Just think that, yeah, with looking at that, that evaluation that the engineer has done of many of those buildings, it's obvious it needs some work. So I think giving it back to staff to consult directly and making it a priority. It sounds like this issue has been on the table for a while and it hasn't been taken seriously. So I'm keen to see it move forward. In the meantime, I'm hoping that any appreciable snow on any of those roofs is removed prudently so we don't have to worry about another collapse or damaged building and artifacts below, or worse, an injury to someone, a citizen or something.
Okay, Janice, you were the seconder.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, I'd like to see something come back from staff and also from the museum staff. We're not, I mean, I don't know what any of those, I don't know the historical value of any of those buildings, where they moved there, constructed there, volunteer built, nothing. So certainly for priority setting and decisions about where to invest capital or do any demolition, we need some additional information. So referring it back seems to make the most sense.
Yeah. Anyone else want to comment on this one? Any thoughts? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that passes. Okay, now we go back to page 33 of our agenda, and that is the single-use checkout bag regulation bylaw 2723. And that this is that we read this bylaw for the third time. Do I have a mover? Andy moves, Chris seconds. Okay, Andy?
Nothing really to say. Let's get it done.
Okay, Chris?
Same.
Okay, comments? Okay, I got some comments. One of the comments that came back to us when this had gone to the ministry in the first place was that many of the other municipalities were adding mandatory fees. And if you looked at the report that was sent, they were talking about that that is the best way to get compliance. And the most common fee structure was 15 cents for a paper bag, $1 for a reusable bag during the first year, and that raising it to $0.25 and $2 respectively in the second. And experience shows that this is very effective. So what is council's appetite for adding that into our bylaw? Stuart?
It seems like these people are the ones that have seen how it's been implemented and what works and what doesn't. And based on that, it seems like this is what works. So we probably should do it.
Okay. I want to have a question to staff. Is this considered a significant enough? Can we just amend and read third with this addition, or is that too big a change?
No, you can amend and then read for the third time.
Okay. Okay. So Stuart's making the amendment that the most common fee structure, the one that I just read, right? So that's the 15 cents for a paper bag, $1 for reusable in the first year, raising to 25 cents the second year, $2 in the second. Okay, is that good? That's Stuart's amendment. Do I have a seconder for the amendment? Chris seconds the amendment. Let's vote on the amendment, adding a price to it. All in favor? Okay, no one opposed. Okay, so now back to the, well, let's see, is there any other amendments anyone wants to make while we're on the topic?
Oh, I had a question.
Yeah.
Does the retailer is still responsible for the purchase and provision of all bags?
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Does the retailer, they're responsible for the purchase and provision of these bags?
Yes.
Alternate bags?
Yeah, and if they don't want to offer them, they don't have to. Like, they don't have to offer a paper bag, but if they do, they have to charge for it. They get to keep the money and do with it as they will. But it's just a nudge for the consumer. I do want to remind us that we had said in July we wanted to include other single-use plastics, and it's not included in this bylaw. That is, we can direct staff to make a separate bylaw if we want to keep this one going forward. It just was too complicated to redo this one. So just so everyone knows that, this is a straight bag bylaw, which we've now amended to add a fee. Dirk?
Two things. I'm happy to keep it moving forward. And then do we need to consider any kind of like a sunset clause?
Dirk, would you take your hand away from your face? I can't hear you.
Oh, forgot where the mic was. Can you hear me now?
Better.
Would there be, sorry, Sarah, would there be like a sunset clause, you know, when the federal plastic comes in, this might be redundant or?
Oh, it's not even sunset. It will be preempted by whatever the provincial and federal regulation does. That's gonna take over, but we just don't know when that's gonna happen. So, yeah. Okay, anything else on the bylaw as amended? All in favor? All right, good. Okay, and now do we have an interest in directing staff to create a second bylaw for other single-use plastics, or do we want to just wait and hope the provincial and federal governments move quickly and get this done so we don't have to? Dirk and then Stuart.
I think just given that this has been a 6+ month process, or no, more than that, it doesn't seem like a wise use of staff resources if we've got something probably coming down the pipe soon.
I can see Cynthia cheering from here. Yeah, I would agree. Stuart?
I agree.
Okay. Okay, so we have our third reading as amended done, and we're not doing anything else with plastics at this time. And the other thing is there is that comment that even though it's not necessarily enforceable right now for stores that have their own COVID safety plan, once we come out of it, it will be. And also it's important to note that both Safeway and No Frills have gone back to using reusable bags, and it's, you know, writing's on the wall, shall we say. We keep some plastic out of the environment.
Just a quick question regarding that. Has there been a request for our local grocer to consider going back to letting reusable bags be brought in?
Yeah, I've had some casual conversation, but nothing specific. But I thought if this passed tonight, I would reach out to Ferraro's and nudge further. So.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so now next one up, zoning amendment 2733, urban agriculture. This is otherwise known as the chicken bylaw. So this is that we read it a third time, and we're going to probably have a little amendment in here, and further that we adopt it. So first, let's talk about an amendment. Do we have an amendment to the chicken bylaw? Terry, look at that face. Nope, muted. You're muted.
I almost pulled it off clean. That's hilarious.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I have a motion that I'd like to amend an emotion to read as follows. And this I think comes under the third. I've got it on a Word document, so I hope you'll figure out where it fits in. But if a complaint or an incident where residential chickens have not been adequately protected is brought forward to the city, the owner will be required to remove the coop completely or restructure the coop and properly electrify it. Bit of a mouthful.
Okay.
Let me try that again. Read it again.
Hold on a second. Let's see. Cynthia, how are you there? Do you have it?
No, could you repeat it again, please?
Hey, you know what I'm going to do, Cynthia?
You can send it to me too.
I'll paste it in the chat. How's that?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Janice, are you seconding?
I'm so seconding it.
Okay. I was going to give that honor to Dirk, right? Because he had the original language, but you know, he's shy. He's letting Lady go first. That's okay. Okay. So, Terry, would you like to speak to this?
Just that this is defaulting to a complaint-based thing. So let's not go around and try and make people it's too onerous to force people to put fences in that may be improperly installed or maybe improperly sized. So, but if we do get a complaint, then we have bylaw enforcement potential to go back and remedy that. But as I said earlier in an email, the bears will be an immediate judge of quality of the fence itself. So I think this is a good compromise.
Okay, Janice.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I think this is a great way to keep it from being onerous. The really responsible chicken owners will never have to put up a electric fence, and the ones that are learning the hard way will have to put up an electric fence. But we'll have learned, and hopefully we'll keep our wildlife safe, and perhaps get the wild safe people involved in some education around appropriate chicken coop.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on this? There's several chicken owners amongst us. Dirk.
I just think this speaks to the intent that we had the first time around, more clearly than the way we had done it. So I am a happy chicken owner.
Yeah, good. All right. The only other thing I would say is that we have had some people who have expressed a willingness to step forward and help us write that educational material. And I think that will be really good. And we'll get that done soon because obviously, as Terry says, the bears will determine how effective electric fence is. And some people want to do electric fences even if they haven't had their birds attacked, and that's great. We just need to help them do it right. Okay, so we're reading this a third time as amended, and further that we are adopting. So all in favor? Okay, good job, peoples. And Terry, thank you for joining us. We were stuck on that one for a while without you here.
My pleasure.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes it just takes 7. Okay, so now we have the Animal Control Regulation Bylaw 2738. This is up for adoption. Sounds like we're adopting pets, but we're actually not. We've got a couple of changes in there. I'm gonna need a mover to adopt. Mover to adopt, Dirk, and seconded by Andy. Any comments? Good to go? All in favor? Okay. I think that's a big improvement to the old one, especially about finding the unneutered dogs. Okay, so zoning amendment. This is light industrial service commercial use, and this is that we advance this amendment to permit service commercial use in the light industrial zone by giving third reading, and further that we adopt. So who wants to move this one? Janice moves it. Chris seconds. Any comments?
I think this is a great way to increase business in our light industrial area, make it more attractive for different types of businesses and more vibrant.
Yep, I think it's great. Anything else? Anybody? All in favor?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, now we've got our revenue anticipation bylaw. This is up for adoption as well. This is just so we can borrow money if we have to, but we never do because we run so well by Elma. Who wants to move it? Andy, seconder? Chris? Okay. Any comments? I think not. Good to go. All in favor? Come on, Dirk, raise your hand, raise your hand. Okay. Now we have our financial plan amendment, and this is also up for adoption. Who's going to adopt it? Dirk, and a seconder? Janice, okay. Any comments? All in favor? Okay. Business license amendment bylaw 2744, and this is being read for the third time. Who wants to move it? Come on, hands up. Okay, Stuart and Chris. I almost called on Stacy for a minute. Okay, any comments here? We're going to look at the other details with other stakeholders later, but this is just the little changes we're making. Dirk, you had something?
I did. Well, can you hear me? While reading through it, section 2.2 and 3.2 on pages 93 and 94, it reads in there like, in my case, I work from home, we work from home, and we have an office and a warehouse. We do business from all three. Do I need a business license for all three? Those two would suggest that I do. And I feel like maybe that can be pared down so that it's one license per business.
Well, good question. I have no idea. Cynthia, can you comment on that?
Just looking up the section in the bylaw.
Pages.
Page 93.
Different businesses.
Yeah, so it's for different businesses on separate premises. So you are one business with multiple premises, so you only need one license.
Yeah, if you had different businesses, like you had a model car business in one location and a mosquito killing operation in the other, then you'd need two licenses. That make sense?
I did. Well, I did. I read through it, and it. Let's see if I can find it. I'm having trouble scrolling. Sorry, everyone. Oops. Oh, too far. But okay, I mean, I could see that. It does read like, it says, every person who operates a business at more than one premises. So I think we're making an assumption. I read it like it was one business and more than one premises. But if it's like a unique business per premise, I got confused by it.
Well, maybe we can just send that to Cynthia to put in a qualifying adjective of some sort that makes it clear that it's the same.
Sorry. Yeah, so as an example of that, for an example of Gabrielle's, they had one business, but they had two different distinct locations where they operated their business. So they needed two different business licenses. One was down at Red, in the base of Red, one was in the Prestige. So once that one shut down because they're operating, it's the same business, but it's at a different physical location. But as a consultant, right, you would be just storing what in one spot, or you're in a different spot. So you would have your home-based business would be, you're going to one spot. So that's kind of the difference on that. And we've never really had a problem with this clause from previous conversations with people once we kind of go through that. So I would recommend that we just kind of remain as is.
And you okay with that, Dirk?
I was just worried about my bottom line
I think you're safe.
and the confusion.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I think you're safe. I think that would come up when you go in to get your business license, right? You go to the front counter and you say, I've got my business license. And then it would be explained. So I don't know. I think we'll leave it. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna vote on it. All in favor, third reading? Okay, all right. Okay, next up, we have zoning bylaw amendment 2745. This is for 1715 3rd Avenue. And this is the first and second reading, and further that a public hearing be scheduled January 18th. This is to add a guest suite. So let's get a mover. Andy moves it, a seconder. Well, let's get Terry to second it this time. Terry did. Okay, any comments on this, Andy? Nope. Terry, any comments?
No comments.
Okay. The only thing I thought, this one, I thought the application looked a little thin on the details, actually. You know, there's a place where they do the check marks and all those things. I'm assuming they sent you all the stuff they were supposed to, Stacy. Wasn't checked off on our form, but they did. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Okay, there we go. All right, now we have our water rate bylaw. This includes our agricultural rate. So this is that we read it a first, second, and third time. Do I have a mover? Okay, Janice moves, a seconder. Did we lose Stu? We lost Stu. Where did he go? Huh?
There. He's there. He's just got his.
I'm here. I'm just eating my dinner.
Yeah. Okay. When you take your video off, then we can't see you. But
Okay.
when the video's on, we can see you with your gap tooth eating your dinner. So you know.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, I can see anyone who has their video on. And so if you're raising your hand and you're a counselor, I can't tell. But if you're the Prince of Darkness there, I can see you even though you are not voting. Okay, so we got a mover and a seconder on this. Janice moves, Dirk seconds, and let's have some conversation. Janice.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the thought process behind having an agricultural water rate. But I also think that we spent significant time and taxpayer dollars to protect and preserve our limited water supply, to drive everyone to use less, to reduce our exposure to future capital costs. And this decision doesn't feel like it's really in line with all that work that we've done. We're not really an agricultural community. Food security isn't defined by having a farm in your community or in your backyard. It's just having access to good quality, abundant. Local is a subjective term. And then I also, Elma kindly sent out her estimates of how much, or not her estimate, she actually sent out specific metered readings from an agricultural property from this last year. I'm assuming that was because it said it was from a metered property. And so I went and I looked. We have our processed water volumes on this agenda further down. So I went and looked, and in June, 2% of our processed water was used for agricultural use. In July, it was 5.5% of our total processed water for the month, 4% in August, and 3% in September. So, you know, that could be a significant amount of water, and we're giving a discount to people who are growing commercially for sale. It's a bit of the discussion we've had about giving people advantages to do things over other people.
Okay. Dirk, you were the seconder?
Yeah, I like it. But I think that there should be some measure of a cap. Obviously, we don't want to discount water and then put ourselves in a position of needing a new filter. So I think there should be a cap on the discount portion and then go back to a residential. I don't know how we define that. There were some of the examples for the North Okanagan district had, a 2,500 something cap. Oh, that was to get the water rate. My other point, I think I just confused myself. So I think there should be a cap on the discounted water. So I like the 50%, but there needs to be incentive to go beyond just using unlimited amount of water, which I don't think is a big issue in most cases. But I did like the option 2, whereas the, what is it, the section 9 or whatever they're called, class 9 farms have access to that discounted rate, given that they prove. I think it's not that onerous that an agricultural business proves that they're making money with agriculture to get that discounted rate, rather than putting the onus on them to get a different, more expensive meter. That would be my preference.
Okay, so hold on. Are you saying rather than, well, they're being requested to buy the meter themselves? Are you saying take that out?
Well, it struck me that while in reading, I understood that there were 2 options. Option 1 is that they could buy the meter, and then it would be easier on our side, and it would meter the water, which some suggested they would like to know anyways. It sounds like they're metered anyways, and so if they have access it to through their class 9, sorry, there's a lot going on in the back. I'm a little distracted, but they have access to the cheaper water through their class 9.
Still crapping on. I didn't miss anything.
We heard you.
Yeah, option 2. I like that someone through class 9 would get access to it, having proven that they're an agriculture business with receipts. It didn't seem that onerous, and it seems like a lower bar for food security. Does that make any sense whatsoever?
Yeah, it does. I don't have it up in front of me. I don't know, Rachel, can you put it up? Can you put up the water rate bylaw and we can look? I thought that the meter was required. It wasn't an if or choice. It was like the meter's required. And that was kind of our bar for saying, okay, if you're willing to buy a meter separate from your home meter to monitor your water, like you have to have a separate meter to get the discount, because we're not giving you a discount on your farmhouse water. We're giving you a discount on your farm water. So I understood it. I understood that was a requirement, and I wasn't sure that was enough. I wasn't sure whether we ought to have some kind of, I don't know what, application that they say they prove they're a farm or something. One thing we could do is just do the first 2 readings of this and then send it back to staff to investigate a cap or an incentive, if that's something council wants to do.
I would like a cap. I'm all for the discounted rate, but I don't think it could be unlimited.
Okay, so procedurally, Cynthia, can we just lop off the fact we said we were doing 3rd reading and just do 1st and 2nd and then give some direction to staff, or do you want us to handle it differently procedurally?
No, that's fine.
Okay, so we're at second reading, and now we're going to make some specific instructions to staff. One of the things is put a cap on how much is allowed at the discount rate, and the other thing is a incentive to get them to use less. How do you want to say it, Dirk?
Sorry, I didn't put enough thought into that part. I think we have a finite. What's that?
Well, wouldn't that be the incentive, is the cap?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you decide on that cap. We have a finite resource of water that we could clean, and so we need to fit a cap in there somewhere.
Okay, Janice?
Well, if I could make a suggestion, Elma's given us 4 months of water usage on an agricultural property. We could take those 4 months and average it and call that the cap. And once they go past that, have a higher rate, maybe 75%, and then put an additional cap maybe at the top end and say anything beyond that is at the residential rate.
Okay, so what we're doing there is discouraging anyone from actually having a good sized farm. Is that what we want to do? Dirk?
I don't think so. Maybe Elma can clarify. I thought the metered readings did start until September. Did I get that wrong?
the uptake for this agricultural rate isn't going to come in a big wave of people. Like, we're talking about a very small number.
Like one.
And so when you talk about putting in a cap or showing proof or all, like, you make it administratively cumbersome. You know, really, you're just talking about, you know, if you just wanted to restrict it to people who had class 9 farm assessments and say only they were eligible and only if they bought a meter themselves for separate, you know, water for agricultural use, and then see how that plays out for summer. We can report back on the usage, and if you think that that's too extravagant, that they're wasting water, well, then let's put a cap on it. Or like right now, we just don't have enough data, and I don't think there's going to be a huge uptake for it. So I would, you know, I would go ahead with the way that it is, maybe just limit it for class 9 and then play it by ear. And we can always adjust the bylaw partway through, you know, the summer if we wanted to.
Okay, so if that's the idea, could we still do third reading with that small amendment that only class 9 properties are eligible? Would that work? That's a question to staff. And then I'm going to call on Stuart.
Preferable for me.
Yeah, it's preferable if we were to go that activity or that way.
Okay, all right, Stuart. You're muted. You're muted.
I wasn't paying any attention at all to the agricultural rate. I thought that was a relatively insignificant part of our water rate bylaw. And I was sort of getting into the weeds of all the excellent information that Alba provided about whether or not we're meeting the long-term you know, maintenance and replacement costs of our water infrastructure. You know, I mean, seems like, you know, the agricultural rate's a pretty insignificant part of this whole picture. And to that, more what I see as a more significant issue is it seems like we're underfunding our long-term maintenance and replacement costs of our water infrastructure.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what we're actually going to do about that.
Well, we're gonna address that in our financial plan.
Okay.
I think we'll be looking at how we're going to address that.
What about our water rates? We don't want to do it through that.
Well, we are doing it through that. I think that was one of the things that came out in the report, is that we're sort of, the effort is to move gradually, you know, boil the frog slowly.
Extremely gradually. I'm just wondering where the lines meet. Where does our very mediocre funding of this meet with our actual increasing obligations?
Yeah, well, it's a good point. Elma, do you want to comment on that at all?
Well, I think we're seeing a positive trend for 2020 just because we're billing on actual consumption instead of estimated consumption that we were going with a pretty low estimate. So revenues are up quite significantly this year. And I think, you know, the increases are substantial for over the next few years. Like, I think we're going to make some good headway.
We're moving.
It can always be adjusted. Like, you know, people really noticed their consumption increases this year when they started, because they didn't realize that they were being billed based on estimations the last year or two. So this year has already been a bit of a shock. So I'm for, you know, keeping on this upward trend, not, you know, increasing it by 50% or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's up to you.
No, I think that makes sense. I mean, in everything we do, the city has been, you know, underfunding infrastructure for decades, and we've been moving in the right direction for the last number of years, but you can't do it all in one giant lightning bolt, right? People need to be educated about what the actual costs of the service that we provide is. And, you know, we're doing that. We've got our asset management plan. We talk about asset management. We talk about investing in our infrastructure. We talk about making our services, pay for themselves, but it is gradual. Your point is well taken, Stu, but I think we need to go in small steps, not huge ones. So
Yeah, well, I wasn't suggesting that we should. I was more looking for that broad summary. I had a lot of detailed information, and it wasn't totally clear to me whether or not the trend we were moving on was the right one. As long as if we're heading in the right direction, and that the incentives we're creating through our consumption-based billing isn't going to compromise that, then I think we're doing fine.
Okay, so right now, just to keep us focused here, we have that the water rate bylaw be ready first, second, and third time as amended. And the amendment is that we just make Class 9 properties eligible. So they are a Class 9 property. They have to buy their own meter, and otherwise everything else in this document suits us. Is that true? Does anyone want to comment and make any other?
I do.
Yes, Dirk, and then Terry.
I do. Actually, Stu reminded me, and it seems I've had a copy and paste accident. And I was wondering why on page 123, and maybe I don't understand what these ratios mean, but it's the ratios for residential metered and et cetera, show that it's do secondary suites pay 25%? Like, what are
Rachel,
those
can you
ratios
take
mean?
this to 123, please?
In addition, so secondary suite pays another 25% in addition to the base fee.
So the water coming into the whole building is at 125%?
For their flat fee.
Well, they have to be, everybody gets billed the residential flat fee. And then if you have a secondary suite, then you're gonna pay another 25% of that base fee, plus your consumption on 1 meter.
Oh, so it doesn't, the cost per unit of water doesn't change? This is just the fee to be able to get water?
Yeah, like our utility fees are set up so that like as fixed and variable. So we have one fixed base fee, and then we have a variable rate fee for water based on consumption. So that you have one fee that's a constant, and you know that you're getting that amount of money, and then the other one is more variable.
And then those ratios are just on the constant part of the fee, not the variable part.
Yeah, that's right, because everybody is different on the consumption, so I didn't put in a ratio for that.
Okay, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Terry, did you have something?
I was just, what's the cost? Can somebody remind me of the cost of the second water meter?
You mean for the farm, if the farm was going to buy one?
Yeah.
It would depend on the size. So if it was just your residential size meter, it would be maybe just under $500. But if you went with a 2 or 3 inch meter, it could be anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500.
Yeah. Okay.
Plus there's associated costs for infrastructure associated with that, right? That isn't part of the city's cost, but it would be part of the applicant's cost. So, and just as another quick note on this one too, is that right now what we're trying to do is if we went through the existing billing that we have in our bylaw, there's basically one farm company that will get a significant increase in expenses when it comes into water that they're going to be owing the city money. So even if this is the way that it's set up for the future, we're talking about one location that we can kind of work with and review and get more information, and we're still receiving the same amount of money from a revenue perspective than we would be as we are right now, and we're not assuming any crazy increases in water consumption from that property because they've been running that as a farm for a couple of years now. So this is a stopping place, kind of stopping gap measure, because not everyone's going to sit down here, and as Elma has mentioned, the floodgates are going to open, proverbially, and come in and start looking for doing residential 50% reduction, 25% reduction, 50% reduction, whatever the case may be, on agricultural water use, because there's not that many in town. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to everyone's attention, that we're spending a lot of time on this for pretty small potatoes, to be honest with you. knowing that we're moving forward.
Okay. Anything else, or I'm going to call the question. You ready? Okay, call the question. We're doing third reading with that small little addition. All in favor? Okay, good. All right, water was so much fun. Let's go to sewer. So again, we are reading this for the first, second, and third time, bylaw 2747. So who's going to move it? Janice moves, seconder. Terry seconds. Okay. Janice, anything to say?
I have nothing to say about sewer.
Okay. Terry, anything to say? You're muted. You're muted.
Nothing. No comments.
Anybody else? One thing I want to say, and I think Andy will agree with me, the background states that the RDKB rates could potentially double without grants when that new plant goes in. But like no one's going forward with that project without the grants because it's like a $62 million project. So that's not going to happen. Plus, we're in a good position to get that grant because I think if we're not the only, we're one of the only last remaining primary treatment facilities, especially one that dumps sewage into an international body of water, which is Columbia River. So yeah, and yes, rates increase slightly, but it's cheap for having water come to your tap and having sewage go out the door. So I'm all good with it. Okay, call the question unless anybody has anything else. All in favor? Okay, all right. Next, hold on. Oh, we've done a few of these. Okay, here we go. Reallocation of Christmas party funds. That council provides further direction on the reallocation of Christmas party funds. It turns out we don't have any extra money. So Janice, you had a motion you wanted to make.
Indeed, I do. I'd like to propose a motion that directs staff to provide $1,000 to the Roussin Food Bank and $500 to the Firefighters Christmas Hamper Program from the COVID Safe Restart Reserve.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Chris seconds. All right. Janice, anything further to say on that? Kind of self-explanatory.
It is indeed, and I think you all saw the note from Elma and Brian confirming that services for vulnerable people. I know we initially talked about the food bank, but the firefighters do a really good job with their hampers. Of course, with COVID this year, they're mostly doing gift certificates, mostly food gift certificates, but they do deliver to the neediest of our families. And, there's bound to be kids there if they can have a little bit more money so they can get a gift certificate from Canadian Tire or Mark's for some winter clothes or even a toy. I think I'd love to see that.
Okay, great. Chris, you were the seconder?
Yeah, 100%. Same, Janice. I think that's a really good motion.
Okay, that's great. I'd also say I'm a little disappointed that we don't have any excess funds, and I think our financial plan in 2021 should definitely reflect the actual amount that we spend, showing appreciation to our staff because it's important. So hopefully we can bump that up a little bit so that's accurate. And other than that, unless somebody has anything, I'm going to call a question here. All in favor? Okay, nice. All right, we're just whipping through this. Okay, Fifth Avenue traffic pattern change request that council directs staff to place a local traffic only signage at the either end of Fifth Avenue. The mover, Andy and Chris. Andy, comments? You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, sometimes you can hit certain buttons and they work and others no. So a bit of a question for Scott, and I know Darren's probably not on the call anymore, but how effective are the local only traffic signs? I just don't see people give it a crap when it comes to those. So I don't think they're very effective, and I don't think they would work in this situation.
Especially in Roslyn, everybody's local, right?
Exactly.
Stuart?
I just don't think it's a sustainable precedent. I mean, there's lots and lots of situations like this. I mean, I look at the alley behind my place. There's all sorts of people that shouldn't be driving up there that do, and there's no way that two cars can come facing from either direction at the same time. And, what are we going to do? We're going to go through and manage all these little odds and ends in our convoluted street network. I mean, it's just it's a part of living in Roslyn. You've got all these real tight little streets. People
Yep.
are coming in the wrong direction. They should back up, and one of them should, give way.
Janice and then Dirk.
I was just going to say that I noticed in between our two meetings that we actually got a email from one of the residents who had written a letter about this to us. And it would appear from her letter that they have worked out something amenable between themselves and Public Works so that they'll have their parking, and Public Works has some ability to do snow removal. And although I just read the email quickly, it looked like they're fine with the sign, but they're happy with the solution they've come up with Public Works, and are happy that we considered it and don't really need us to do anything with this anymore.
Oh, well, that's great news. I hadn't seen that email. So, yeah. Okay, so we can just vote this down and move on. Okay, so
Let's do nothing.
All in favor of doing this? Nobody. Opposed? Everybody. Okay, we're good. We're done. Thanks. Oh, that's good. That's good. I do know their biggest concern was about the parking, because that street, unlike some of the others, it gets narrower because a house was built on half the road. So, okay, acting mayor schedule, that we approve the acting mayoral schedule as presented. The mover. Terry moves it. Andy seconds it. Any comments? No, we're done. All in favor. You guys get the month you get, unless you know you're not going to be here. Okay, so now we have the gift of the Lily May sculpture. So the council provides further direction to staff with respect to the Lily May sculpture gifting request. So let's provide more direction. Thoughts? Janice, thoughts?
I don't think we should accept the gifting of the sculpture.
And why not?
Well, it looks like it's going to be a long-term. There'll be some long-term maintenance and costs, and if the Arts Council is going to start these sorts of projects without thinking through the results of how it's going to affect their ability to continue functioning, I think they need to. I also think that I'm not too sure that having an actual I'm not sure they're actually not going to be able to apply for the grant, because they have it's like a reserve. They can't sell the sculpture. It's an asset. It's not capital. It's not funds in place.
Okay, so hold on, before you go too much farther, you're making a motion that we do not accept the gift. So let's see if there's a seconder. There's someone who wants to second that, so we can discuss it. Okay, Stuart seconds it. Okay, so now, are you done, Janice?
Sorry, I got carried away. Yes, I am.
You got carried away, but that's okay. Okay, Stuart, do you want to comment on the motion not to accept?
Well, I don't really feel strongly about this either way, but I think if the Arts Council are going to install these sculptures and they're going to get our permission, I think it's almost like it's already been done. But I'd like to think that we understood exactly what it's going to cost us to install them, and exactly what our costs are going to be, long term, so that we can actually plan for these things, rather than, them just doing it and then us sort of just sucking it up and, oh yeah, we'll just throw a bunch of money into installing it, and now we're going to have to take it on permanently. I think as a one-off, it's not such a big deal, but long term, I think we want to set a precedent that we understand all the implications of these things before we authorize them.
Yeah, Andy. Andy, you're muted. You're still muted.
So I kind of agree overall with what's being said, but maybe in this particular situation, it sounds like they got themselves in a bit of a pickle and realized the true value of this one. I'm assuming that all the other sculptures that are permanent sculptures in town are under the auspices of RCAC, not the city. Is that correct?
I have no idea. This is the first time it's come up. This is the first time they've asked us to take it over. Like, I know when Rusty got broken, Public Works helped fix the tail, but I think RCAC was involved. Does staff want to comment?
I think that we don't have any formal documentation that we own any artwork at all. We just provide for location and potential install costs when we get the full picture of what is being asked of us, which we're going to do a better job of in the future.
Right. Yeah. Well, in this circumstance, one of the things that did come to mind is the fact that this new sculpture that is in front of the Miners Hall is pretty tied to that facility. This facility is owned by the city. So in this one circumstance, I would say that we should consider ownership. But on any further or any of the other ones that are already currently in the community, I'd say no. But under the circumstance of this one, I kind of think it might be worth a consideration for taking it on.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way as Andy there. You know, it's not really in the, you know, I was looking at alternative 2 as well, but it's not really in the scope of RCAC to do the maintenance on anything around the city at all. So if we're going to accept it, then we have to accept it fully. And, you know, if RCAC, I'm not a big fan of asking for forgiveness after the fact, but in this case, I think that we can help them, my opinion.
Okay, I'm going to let Christy speak, and then we'll go to Terry and Dirk.
Just to clarify on the maintenance of the sculptures that the RCAC install, since my involvement, their applications for approval from council do include the caveat that they will do the ongoing maintenance of those sculptures. So this is a change to what they've requested and a change to what has been done in the past that they're requesting.
Okay, Terry.
I think Christy just answered my question. I was going to ask about how maintenance was calculated and how that gets built into the budget. I can certainly see, you know, hard numbers being attached to the installation of a sculpture, but I was just curious on how that number of ongoing maintenance. But, and Christy, I'm hearing you say that RCAC is going to take that on. Yeah, I'm inclined to like what I hear from Chris, et cetera, that we should accept this or make this one-off exception and really have a good long-term plan about the actual costs and who's taken on maintenance for any future pieces.
Dirk.
I just ask, what are the consequences of not accepting it? Do they ship it off? They put a lot of money into the base, and like what actually happens to it? Is this just a maintenance technicality?
No, I think it stays on their books, and then according to their report, they're impacted in their ability to get grants, and they were told that by one of the grantors. So I'm not sure whether they're right or whether Janice's interpretation is right. I think I pretty much agree with what people are saying. It's like, yes, you know, when RCAC comes forward and offers us a sculpture, it's our responsibility to look at that and say, yeah, do we have the budget to help them install it? Because they usually ask for that. Do we have a place for it? We own it, but I think we need to start thinking about, are we willing to take on the maintenance of it too? Because RCAC is a volunteer organization. They spend a lot of time, you know, fundraising and doing projects and putting on things for the community. They're not a maintenance organization. And I think maybe we have to be more careful about when we say yes to them for their acquisitions, because if they expect us to take them on and do the maintenance of them, which I think they fully should, because the city, they become a community asset. They're not a RCAC asset, they're a community asset, and we are the city. So I think we need to build in some more rigorous standards about what they're actually asking us to do before we approve future sculptures. But I would definitely support taking on this one. I think we're really lucky to have RCAC bringing, you know, culture and art and everything to town. I think they make a huge difference to the, you know, the amenity of our community, and I like that. So I also don't want to make them ineligible for grants that they might be looking for other things. So Stuart. Oh, they aren't asking for a tax donation. I did verify that with them. Stuart.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer that RCAC make the decisions on on the artwork and where things go and what, I don't want to be judging the merits of different sculptures. But if they're going to take it on, then they should take on the responsibility for it.
Well, they're usually asking us. They're usually asking us for placement and help. I mean, and
yeah, but I think it's good having that arm's length. I think it's good them taking on the full responsibility for all these aspects, and then they can consider. I mean, if when they're responsible for the maintenance costs, then that's a natural limit on how much art that they're going to take on, rather than just endless enthusiasm for more and more art. If they don't have the means to maintain it, well, maybe they shouldn't get another piece.
yeah.
I just don't. It seems a perverse incentive if they're just going to keep getting things and bringing things into the community, and then we take on the long-term responsibility for them.
We have the choice not to. We have the choice not to. And that's what I'm saying. We put in a more rigorous standard when they come to us and say, we want a sculpture at this point, at this place. Sometimes we say, no, we don't like that place because we've got other plans for our city property. So we say, no, we can't do it there. Or maybe we don't like the art, whatever. And we're 7 people that are representing the community. We can have a vote in that if we want, although they do some of that on jury committees or whatever. But I think I think we have to be careful. We act with some of these volunteer groups. We act like they're employees, and they are not. They're volunteers doing a benefit for the community. We need to decide when it comes to what costs the city incurs, how much of that, and that's where we limit it. If it comes in with installation costs, purchase cost, maintenance costs, and we say, no, we're not doing that because it's too much, that's when we say no. Janice and then Dirk.
Actually, Dirk was first.
Oh, sorry, Dirk and then Janice.
Well, it strikes me that the only reason that we're taking this is not a limit on theoretically their capacity to maintain it. It's so that they have access to grants. So it's just changing hands on the book. Why can't we just accept the gift and say part of the gift is an ongoing maintenance? I mean, it seems like it's just the value of the statue that they're transferring to us so that they can apply for grants. They're not getting rid of it because they can't clean it all of a sudden.
No, that's right. But I think I don't have it in front of me again because I'm not looking at it, but didn't they also say in there that we would then take over the maintenance of it? I think that was in the proposal, wasn't it?
Well, if we can negotiate that part.
Yeah, but I just don't see that. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Can we own it and they still maintain it?
Well, yeah, but I'm not sure that's what their volunteers are doing, is that they're signing up to do maintenance on sculptures. They're signing up to bring arts and culture to the community. Somebody had a hand up and I missed it. Janice.
Yeah, I guess, and what just sort of rubs me the wrong way on this is they've been very enthusiastic about placing art all over town. And art is a lovely thing. And now they're saying, oh, well, oops, this, now we don't want to be responsible for this for whatever reason it is. So can you take it over for us, please? And if it was anything but art, I don't think we would have had anything more than a 2-minute conversation.
That's a good point. Like give us an example. Like if some volunteer group came and said, take over my tractor, or I mean, what are you talking about?
Well, anything that any of our volunteers do. I mean, if KCTS built a trail and said, hey, we're going to build a trail and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and it's going to be a great trail and everybody loves it, and then you said yes, and we'll help you with the entrance and the exit, and we'll do this and we'll do that. And then, a year later, KCTS says, yeah, well, we're not going to maintain that anymore. We don't want to do that. So we're going to gift it to you. And now you're responsible for all of it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying on that, but I'd say that's a bad example because KCTS does they build trails.
Well, I know.
Council
doesn't ask me for an example on the spot, and I looked at Stuart's face, and that's what I came up with.
I agree.
It's not that I think Stuart would ever do that, but if he did, I'd be just as upset.
I feel shameful.
Yeah, I guess, I think because of thinking about the tennis society, right? The tennis society was saying, well, why don't you guys do more for membership, which was my question to them. And they're like, ooh, actually, we're kind of a maintenance group. And now we're asking this volunteer group to do something that they're not inclined to do. They don't really, they want to maintain the courts. They don't necessarily want to be running maintenance, membership lists and having AGMs, right? Or whatever, right? And I think we're doing kind of the same thing to the Arts Council. The Arts Council wants to present art. They want to put on events. They want to do all this stuff, but they don't necessarily want to be the ones to polish the tail of the horse. Stuart.
Except we're not talking about an essential service. This is pretty optional stuff. We can just send the sculptures to the scrap metal yard if we want.
That's true, we could. Terry.
I think this feels like something like going forward, just to double back on our conversation, going forward, we should think these things through. I don't think RCAC is core competence is around maintenance. And I wonder, like, that's my question before was about the actual cost of this stuff. And if it's some time, and I don't disagree that this stuff all adds up, but the city is in a much better position to do the maintenance. But going forward, we should make sure that we build in those costs. On this one, my feeling is let's accept the gift and look after this. And going forward, let's make sure that we've got some clear arrangements. No, I get, we can tell them no. It's just how I feel on this one right now.
No, I think that's good. Dirk?
If we accept the gift, then perhaps it becomes too onerous in a year, we can re-gift it. Give it to Cascar or something.
Let's give it to the ball. Okay, you guys.
Maybe it can go somewhere where the Viking bench is.
Okay.
Well, if they need money, we can give it back to them later.
Right. Okay. I think we've talked about this quite a bit. I think, how about these as motions, perhaps? Take a motion to accept and take over responsibility for the Lily May sculpture, but also direct staff to create a policy that is more, that outlines more rigorously what we expect before we would accept another sculpture, something like that.
Yeah, we have a motion on the table to not accept the gift that we should probably finish up on before we move forward on the next one.
Sorry, I forgot we even had one. Okay, so the motion on the table is not to accept the gift. All in favor of not accepting the gift? Okay, opposed to not accepting the gift? Okay, so that motion fails. So now a new motion. Let's just make it simple. A motion to accept the gift. Okay, so Dirk makes it, Andy seconds it. I don't think we need to talk about it. All in favor of accepting the gift? Okay, that passes. And opposed? Okay, Janice and Stuart. Okay, so that's that.
Sorry, we're just gonna double check to make sure that we're gonna accept that gift, but we're not gonna be giving a donation receipt, correct?
Yeah, no, they're not asking for one.
Well,
Yeah,
they were,
but
we just, can you make a motion to clarify that that's not happening? So when they come back and ask us about that, we can tell them, no, we're not doing that.
Sure, we just amended our last motion. Didn't you hear us? We said we're accepting the gift with no donation receipt.
Oh, no, it must have been a bad Shaw connection, sorry.
That's Shaw, Okay, so that's our motion. That's good. And then I think we do need, and somebody can help wordsmith this, but I think we do need a motion to say that in our donations policy, we could revise our donation policy to allow for art gifts if approved by council that have some, robust criteria or something that talks about ongoing maintenance. Can we do that? Andy, you're muted.
I'll make that motion. And I think that maybe the conversation should also be around
Andy, let's figure out what we're saying in the motion first, and then you can talk about it. Cynthia,
okay. Well, that we develop a robust policy around sculpture about artwork.
Let's see what Cynthia has. Cynthia?
I don't have it. So if you could clarify, that would be great.
Okay. So staff would come back with policy around public artwork in the community.
So we're revising the donation policy to allow for art gifts. And then we have to get the other part about including ongoing maintenance and
No, I think what we'll do is we'll treat this artwork like as per Councilor Morales. We'll try to create another policy just specifically related to artwork and leave the parks, trails, and donation policy the way that it is, because it doesn't have any problems with it right now.
Okay. Leave it to us to give it some problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Andy's motion is that we're creating a new policy about art, and then it can include all those other things. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, so Andy makes the motion. Who seconds? Terry seconds. Further discussion on this? Anything? All in favor? And no one opposed. Okay. Ooh, that was harder than it needed to be, but you know, given the evening, I think we're going pretty well. Okay, Heritage Commission statements of significance, that we approve the 8 statements of significance for addition to the Heritage Registry. Who wants to make that motion? Chris makes it, a seconder. Janice seconds it. Discussion? No? All in favor?
I'd like to make a comment
Yeah, make a comment.
on what an excellent job the Heritage Commission is doing with the statements of significances. These are the last remaining ones. So
Is it?
good
These are
job.
the last ones? That's great.
Well, it's
I
coming
had,
down to it, yeah.
I had a question. I was very surprised to see Pinewood included in Lower Roslyn. It's so much closer to Happy Valley or Upper Roslyn than in Lower Roslyn. So I thought that was kind of weird. And I thought Redstone, from a heritage point of view, should be called Chinese Garden as its historical name, and they don't include that. So there you go. Okay, anybody else? Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for having historical context to our decision-making process, but it just, some of it just seems so subjective. I don't know. You know, I mean, I don't want to go through and wordsmith this stuff, but you know, when they're lauding the unpretentious ambiance of Red Mountain, you know, and I don't know. I mean,
compared to Davos, it's unpretentious. Let it go.
I guess it is.
Okay, did we vote on that? I think we did, didn't we? Did we vote? All in favor?
No.
Okay, we're voting. We're done. Okay, invoices paid for municipal expenses. Does anybody have any comments or questions on this? Otherwise, I need a mover and a shaker to get this going. Dirk and Chris, any comments? None? All in favor? There we go. Keep spending that money, $385,000. Okay, now here we're going for city reports and council information. Stop me if you have a question. Otherwise, we're just going to run through them because no motions are required. City of Roslyn by-election report. Congratulations, Terry Miller. Building permit inspection.
I like that. I just want to say thanks to Stacy. I like seeing, oh no, sorry, I'm one ahead. I'm super excited.
You're super excited about the step code,
Yeah.
right? Okay, we're building inspection, building permits. Anybody raise your hand? Now, Dirk, now, step code.
I like seeing that. I like seeing what people are trying for. I was a little disappointed on one and pleasantly surprised for the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
I agree. It's really good to see. Public Works report, hardworking Public Works with the Prince of Darkness there, still in the shadow. Water production, water production, and then the Wild Safe annual report. Updated. Oh, yeah. Sorry,
So
Dirk.
who called the conservation officer for a deer? That's all I wanted to know.
Oh, it was a vicious deer.
It's eating my carrots. What can I say?
Oh, it's terrible. Okay, updated task list. I really did think we dropped the Viking, the Viking bench. Can we get rid of it off the task
No,
list?
we didn't drop the Viking bench. We talked about it, but this is going to be updated in the next couple of weeks. And then revision is going to come to council showing how we're switching stuff around. So stay seated. It'll be exciting.
Okay, so you can drop it then. Okay, so here we are, letter of support for the city of Vernon. This actually isn't really, excuse me, a letter of support. What they're asking for is that we write a letter that basically is the same motion, that we pass the same motion that they passed, and that we send it to all the people they mentioned, the Premier, Minister of Finance, Minister of Health, and our local MLA. So that's what they're at. They don't just want a letter of support. They want us to write the same motion. So Can I have a mover for the same motion? This is for all prescription contraception available in BC. Janice makes the motion, Stuart seconds it. Any comments on this? Pretty straightforward. It's kind of like male dogs being treated the same as female dogs. Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's good. So we passed the same motion that Vernon did, and we'll send the letter as directed. Okay, next up, we have Red Mountain Fireworks Event Support Request. They want us to share in their $2,000 event, and our portion would be $666. Ooh, that's an evil number to support it. And that's sharing it with Tourism Roussin and Red. Motion? Somebody? Dirk makes it. Andy seconds it. Any discussion? I don't think so. Terry's already gotten his calendar. All in favor? Okay. Member reports. Let's see. Dirk, you can go first.
I just have two real quick ones. The Christmas bird count coming up on December 20th. So get in touch with me if you want some of the tweet details. And then the 100% renewables meeting was the only thing I attended, and that was pretty much just a wrap up, excuse me, for the process as we move into accepting. And kudos to, I think, Caslow and Warfield now for adopting their renewable plan.
Yeah, did you hear about, did Castlegar go? I think maybe they're tonight. They might be tonight, anyway.
Yeah,
okay. Janice.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had a bunch of stuff and I usually write my notes before the meeting, and I did not. And so rather than ramble through it, I'll write it all up and send it to everyone, including Cynthia, for tomorrow morning.
That's great. Stuart. Oh, you're muted.
I participated in the Sustainability Commission Home Energy Efficiency Benchmarking webinar, which was very interesting. Ken Holmes had lots of good stuff. I've been doing all sorts of webinars. I also reviewed and provided feedback on a draft of Roslin's Community Wildfire Protection Plan update, which I thought was quite interesting, and I think that's going to come to us shortly.
Good. Andy. You're muted.
Everybody saw my report. Janice's hand is up for a question.
Yeah, actually, Andy, I had two questions. The first one was about why the individual community funding varies. Can you kind of expand a little bit on what's going on there?
I can't, but Councillor Ciccone brought that up at most recent meeting where we had the Columbia Basin Trust doing a presentation. So Johnny said that he would pass that along to staff and provide an answer back. So I'm hoping we'll have something there to find out why the imbalance from community to community in the dollars per capita.
Yeah, good. I had that same question. I had a couple others.
Janice had another one.
Sorry. Go ahead, Janice.
It's okay. It's I also I wondered, you said that there was some differing opinions from the reports about some of the changes noted in many communities. Of course, I didn't write down what the changes were, page 255, but I just wondered what were some, I think it was about population.
Yeah, it was
population
interesting.
Or sales.
Well, after that,
what some of the
so it's related to the housing study. So that housing study did provide lots of facts and figures from community to community, but it was interesting to hear from some of the directors and area representatives who felt that anecdotally, they're not seeing the same numbers happening. What sparked it was a noticeable decrease in population in a couple of the communities, and people said, well, wait a minute, in the last 6 months to a year, we're actually seeing an increase people coming into the community. So the whole COVID effect, and unfortunately, the housing study, was kind of just before a lot of the statistics and stuff that was, the research was done just before COVID, and all of a sudden there's a big change being noted in some of the small communities. So I don't know what will come of covers some of those observations, but the consultant certainly took it to mind, and I wouldn't be surprised she'll have some further comments to make about how, what they're seeing province-wide, and certainly specific to rural communities.
Great, thank you very much, Andy.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So Andy, mine where I saw the staff report said that climate impacts for the new plant, and they had like 21 different risks identified. And have they been examined, and is action going to be taken on that and redesign of the plan?
Yeah, certainly, with Stuart in here and his wife being involved very much in that ISL report, it was interesting to hear that, well, how thorough it was, for one thing. It was a bit of an eye-opener, I think, for everybody to see just how critical these kind of papers and studies that are being done on these facilities now. And because this facility isn't even built yet, it's a good opportunity for us to be in a position to be able to make sure that engineering-wise, these things are all considered in design. One of the interesting things was site. It was specific mostly not to the actual structure of the building, but the site where it's going to be built, the existing site, and how wildfire will impact that, flooding would impact that, et cetera. And of course, doing climate change estimations over the next 50 years, some of it is pushed out and trying to make sure that facility will adapt, or be adaptable to all those changes that are potentially coming down. So as far as I know, the engineers have taken a lot of that information into consideration in design. The $62 million budget that's been thrown out for that building hopefully will still be representative of any considerations. But honestly, I'm not sure. It's a bit of cart before the horse. That study just came out that ISLs provide. So it'll be interesting to see. And I can find out if that will go directly to our engineers and our cost estimators and see if that, is going to be all covered.
Okay, thanks.
As well.
Yeah, just curious, because I mean, obviously those changes, those impacts need to be considered, but we're already at 62 million. So it's hard to imagine that it's certainly not going to go down, My other question there was LCIC mentioned they had a $17,000 funding loss. What did that come from? Do you know?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
We didn't lose a partner, did we?
No, you know what it was related to? It was related to one of the granting projects that the last 3 years has helped to support. I think it was RDI or something like that. It was supporting LCIC. Maybe Stuart might have some information about that. And then that funding is dried up. It was a 3-year contract or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Chris.
On November 26th, Michael Ramsey, we took the sign from the Columbia Cemetery and took it down to the sign maker to have all of the language around it replaced and have it redone. So we'll see that in the next couple of weeks coming back. On the 8th, I attended the museum AGM. And it was a great example of how connectivity is challenging the museum. It wasn't the greatest of meetings on Zoom. However, the highlight of it was Libby's presentation of the railway in Rossland historically. So it was really interesting. She had a photo presentation of it. As noted, the COVID has definitely affected their numbers. They were prior to the pandemic on track for a record year. Not so much now. Rossland Midtown meeting on the 9th. Question step 3 or step 4? Still a question. Moving forward, we're still looking for some funding and some 95% drawings. And that's it for me.
Okay, Dirk.
Mine was so good. You want to hear it again?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't check you off. I already talked to you. Okay, sorry. Terry, do you have anything? Brand newbie.
Hey, yeah, my first meeting as a counselor was with the library board on December 9th, and it was good to meet everybody. And they were just basically, on Dirk's good counsel there, I got a nice handoff. Thanks, Dirk. And, you know, pump the OCP process that we want to spread the word. They had a really good orderly meeting, and they got ready for this committee of the whole meeting. So that was the nuts and bolts of that. I think they're doing great, and there was some interesting stuff that's going on because of COVID. So you know, actually their usage is sort of going up despite different things. So that was good.
Okay, great. Well, I have a whole lot, which I'm not going to go through all. I'm just going to hit the highlights, and I'll do what Janice is doing and just put it into the minutes, and you can read it or not as you wish. First of all, very happy to welcome Terry to our little club here, and I know he's going to do an excellent job. Good support from the community, so we welcome you, and that's great to have you with us. Committee appointments. You've all seen the committee appointments. I tried to get a little cross training in there, get people assigned to areas that were of interest to them, and an equitable distribution in terms of, you know, not number of groups necessarily, but in time, amount of time required. So hopefully that works out. We're all kind of equal. And also, just to reiterate again, being in those volunteer groups as liaisons helps us, you know, stay connected to those groups that contribute so much to the community. So it's really important. That role is important. We are appreciated by the groups, even though I know sometimes we're tired. The Provincial Tourism Task Force report is out and now circulated. I'm going to be discussing it with the other resort municipality mayors on Wednesday, and we're going to be talking with the new Minister of Tourism about it, which none of us seem to know, Melanie Mark. She's completely new to all of us. The MCON meetings we talked about. Oh, this is kind of cool. This isn't necessarily city, but one of the West Kootenay Friends of Refugees sponsorees was selected to represent BC in a nationwide citizenship ceremony. And so she's since moved over to Kelowna, and she's, you know, gotten married and all this stuff, which is really cool. But she was from Syria and sponsored locally. And it was a very moving ceremony. It was very cool. But there was one Syrian from each of the provinces and territories, and Rahaf was our BC representative, so that's cool. I participated in the Toddler Development Index meeting, which was good. I did the webinar on PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, which is a really good program that will help people make improvements to their homes and not have it come directly out of their pockets. It'll stay with the house, not the person. Tourism Roslin Board meeting. The OCP group has met. Again, last 100% renewable plan steering meeting. I did a library book promotion where I read a book, a kid's book on video, and it looks like I'm in an institution. I don't think it'll be the least bit appealing to children, but it was a great idea. And then, let's see. Oh, I'd also attended the Sustainability Commission benchmarking thing. And along with Stacy, participated in electric vehicle video that's being done. So that'll be fun too. And that's it. I think we are now going to recess to in camera. So this is that our meeting be closed pursuant to 91A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality. And so with that, take a motion to close it up. Janice and Dirk, and we're out. And thank you, attendees. We hope we didn't bore you to death.